Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the weekend update here for June 2nd, 2024. So first thing I want to cover is that we did have two positions that were closed out this last week. This one, the 6/7 dated SPX trade, this was closed out for about an 18% profit. And then the other one was one that I just let expire. And this one expired for essentially a scratch. It ended up being down about $10, which is essentially the sum of the commissions. This trade had 10 total adjustments in it. So it was a wild ride on this one. So to get out of this with essentially a scratch is, in my book, a bit of a win when you have 10 adjustments and the commissions that go along with those 10 adjustments. So these two are going to be moved to the closed trade archive circle. And anybody that wants to review them can go down there and review the entire chain. Those of you that are members can review the entire trade from start to finish with the real-time videos as I opened it, adjusted it, etc. So that leaves us with a few trades open here at this point, 4 trades specifically. So we come take a look at those 4. This is the Apple trade that went really south on us out of the gate, and it is battling back. Apple's going to have some big announcements here starting this next week. I think it's mid to late next week, their WWDC conference. So this could move around a bit on us. So I will be keeping an eye on that. The DJT No-Lose Butterfly, this is showing some nice profits finally. Again, we'll have to see what happens on this. Ideally, this will continue to just decay. I'm not looking at any adjustments or anything really to speak of on this, just thinning it out as I go, because there just isn't, because we were able to enter it as a no-risk trade, again, just letting it play out there. This particular fly, now the rally going into the close on Friday was something to behold, almost a 100-point S&P rally. We'll look at that in a moment. Hugely ran up, and it did impact this trade, but we're still right under the tent here. And I don't believe this T0 line is quite accurate here after hours. I do believe that P&L is actually a little better than what it's showing here. I think we just have some wide bid-ask spreads after hours. But that run-up did not help this trade because it is a flat fly. It wasn't broken wing. And it is a flat fly because I wanted that little bit of negative delta because our markets were looking much weaker until about 2 hours before the close with that massive up move. So we'll have to see what Monday brings here, if that up move is going to continue or not. If it does, of course, this is going to require some adjusting. And then this trade, the Rut Butterfly with long call. Same thing here. I don't really believe this is actually down to 25. I think that's a function a little bit of bid-ask spread. But again, we'll see more on Monday with that. And this trade is positioned nicely. If the market does continue its uprip, that long call is going to come into play. It's going to hold up our T0 line out here. If the market rips enough in Rut, that could actually produce some profit in this trade and maybe a full adjustment of the butterfly or some other potential move to accommodate for continued upside movement. So those are the tentative plans in these specific trades. I am going to look to launch a new wheel trade. I'll be going through that process here this next week as well, the selection process of how do I consider wheel stock? Thank you, all of those that are members that have put some thoughts and suggestions in the community for me. Again, I'll be going through those and looking at the process that I go through in that selection. So that kind of covers our existing trades. I will look to potentially open something else maybe a little later this week as well, but that's where we're at right now with our current open trades. Now, taking a look at our market, this is that rally that is just, I can't find anything specific that set this thing off literally in the last hour of the day. We were powering a little bit higher after a sell-off, and then so I was expecting maybe to come back into this 52.50 range, something like that. But then all of a sudden the buying just It was, again, a rip your face off sort of thing, because we had been down here. If we look over here, we were down to 51, almost 51.80, and then we closed up here at almost 52.80 in SPX. So almost a 100-point rally. Now, if you remember last week when I did the weekend update, I said we could very easily drop down to around this range, around the 51.80, maybe even down to this 51.50. I was fully expecting a pullback into this range and then probably a bounce off that. Now, this pullback is roughly a 50% of this move. So many times when you're dealing with Fibonacci's and the waves, those pullbacks often are around the 50% range, and then you might chop sideways or slowly start to recover. Wasn't quite expecting this all in a single day. So we'll have to see what transpires here on Monday, if this is going to continue. Again, my expectation was that we were going to continue back up here to around that 53.25 to 53.50 range. I would expect a little bit of sideways chop there, maybe a little bit of a pullback, but probably not quite as deep as this one. So maybe a little bit of a pullback to the 52.60, 52.50, and then possibly a rally back and a pop through. As strong as this was on Friday, I don't know. This thing could literally on Monday, Tuesday just blow right through here. So I don't know. Bottom line is definitely a bullish move. And if we take a look at this also in SPY, just to get a sense of how volume played into this, look at that SPY volume that came in on Friday. Massive buying volume on that move up. So again, I can't find any specific thing. There wasn't any report, no specific news that I could pinpoint that seemed to come out in that last hour of the market, but something sparked a massive amount of buying coming in. Generally speaking, in election years, the few months leading up to an election historically has been bullish as well. So again, we are looking at some bullish sorts of moves and some historically bullish momentum around elections. Everything is leading to still bull move, possibly higher high here. But again, need to wait and see what Monday, Tuesday brings as to whether we just chop sideways, get a little pullback, whatever. That's going to be on SPY. And then we'll also look at VIX. And of course, with that huge rally, VIX just dropped way off again. Now, what's interesting is we're not quite yet making new highs in the ES or the S&P 500. We rallied hard, but VIX is not all the way back down here. So there is still a little bit of volatility and or what we'll call fear in the market. But again, it certainly dropped off considerably on Friday. So we'll keep an eye on what's happening with VIX here as well. If our rally continues, volatility will even come a little bit lower, I would expect. So if we, however, start to get a little bit of a pullback off of that big Friday rally, I think VIX could move back up here a little bit. For those of us that are option sellers, selling butterflies, things like that, that's a little better scenario for us to have that little higher volatility. Gives us a little edge in some of our trades. A higher VIX would be welcome, and we'll have to watch that. Now, RUT. So RUT, while it rallied, didn't rally quite as much. And again, we're in that same almost 50% retracement mode here from our 1933 up to 2100. So 1933, 2100, that's about 70. So about 70 off that. We had about that same 50% retracement and then a little bit of a rally off the retracement. Now, the RUT did not rally quite as strong. That was definitely a rally, but it didn't rally quite as strongly. And so we'll have to see here. Right now, this is still in what I would call a little bit of a downtrend, at least a temporary downtrend. And the overall uptrend is not as what I would call pronounced or as bullish as what the S&P has been. That leads me to basically think that the RUT trade here, again, I think we're playing in a good range. If we get that little bit of a pullback or even that stability, even if it stays and chops right in this general area, this trade's in a good position right now. Definitely like where that's at as well. So everyone, that's it for the weekend update. Thank you so much for checking in. And those of you that are members of the community, we'll see you in there this coming week. Those of you that might see this on YouTube and are not members of the community at this point, look for the link down below if you want to find out more about it. Take care, everyone.